Pop Culture Pastor.
So, Cody, a lot of people don't know this about you, but when I think about your diet, I think red meat eater.
Yeah.
Just man's man eating just raw red meat. No, I'm just, no. You
Basically Ron Swanson. That's me.
The best cold open for that show ever was when he was going through the Parks Department office in all the places he'd hidden bacon. Bacon. He's like taking off a ceiling tile. Bacon.
I think you misheard me. I want all the bacon.
That's Cody in a nutshell. Cody is a meat eater. I'm having a little fun because Cody is notoriously finicky when it comes to eating.
I have a refined palate.
Right. We don't want to distract from that. He's very refined palate. Therefore, he's very picky about what he eats. But I ask you about meat because I have a story here that I want to talk about. But would you say we're in an area of the country where there are probably more meat eaters per capita than a lot of other places in the country?
Well, we're in prime ranch real estate.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of cattle out here, and a lot of cattle that need eating.
Yeah. And we like to do the eating.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I like steaks and hamburgers and things like that. Honestly, though, if I was going to pick a meat, we talked about this on another subject once recently. Or maybe it was just a conversation. I can't distinguish between my real conversations and my radio and podcast conversations.
They're all real.
Well, yeah, they're all real, of course. But in some sort of conversation recently, I remember telling someone if I could only pick one kind of meat for the rest of my life, then I had to give up all the kinds, I'd pick chicken.
As I've gotten older, chicken has become more prevalent. Although I think just good hamburger meat I could live off of, honestly.
Well, for sure. I mean, that doesn't mean I dislike cow. Dislike the red meat. I think I like chicken a little bit more. But this story is about beef.
It's what's for dinner.
It is. Cue the music. Okay, Cody. So we're going to be talking about a study. We talk a lot about studies here on the program.
That's because we are all about quality research.
Yeah, for sure. We like to be in touch with the common wisdom of the day.
Yes.
And often that can be through these surveys, studies, these people out there, scientists, psychologists, whatever, that are out there studying human behavior, the things we do, the things we like to say even, and in today's case, the things we like to eat. I wanted to talk about this study because it's interesting to me, first and foremost, but maybe a little shocking. A new study reveals that 50% of the beef consumed in any given day in this country, 50%, so half the beef, is eaten by 12% of the U.S. population.
We're carrying our weight.
Like, I eat a lot of beef, but I don't think I eat that much beef. I'm not eating for, 30 other people. That's kind of wild.
That is. But you also have to think that there's a chunk of the population that is vegetarian. There's a chunk of the population that, due to dietary concerns, have cut red meat out of their diet. And then, there's a very small percentage of the population that has been bitten by a tick and can't eat red meat ever again. I would die.
I think that's super rare, though.
It's becoming more common.
I will never go outside again.
Let's say that rounds up to 15% of the population just doesn't eat red meat, period. And then there's, I guess, some that wouldn't eat it due to religious dietary concerns. So that 15% might be a real number. 85% of the U.S. population's eating beef.
Then you still got a long way to go here.
And
somebody is eating yours and my share, and then the next 10 people we see share. They're like, wake up in the morning. What do you want for breakfast, hon? Beef. Just brown me up some beef. And then lunch, beef.
Yeah.
Dinner, beef.
You gotta also think Hamburger Helper has added extra meals that beef can be used for.
Hamburger Helper, just behind the scenes manipulating all of this, right? They're just pulling levers. The dude back there, he's like, "Oh, my wonderful boxed, ready to go meals." he's behind it all.
Yes.
The little glove with the face. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Is he still their mascot, or did they do away with that in like the 90s?
He was still around in the aughts.
Hamburger. Did you eat Hamburger Helper a lot growing up?
Not a lot. It was on our menu once in a blue moon. As an adult, it became more frequent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just because I feel like my wife, who she says she's hindered by my refined palate.
Yeah, well, I understand. Yeah, I know where you're going here.
And she's like, well, we're going to put this on the menu for every 2 weeks at least.
Nothing but Hamburger Helper and grilled cheese going on at the Haviland household.
It is not just that.
Honestly, Hamburger Helper, I know some people might complain, some kids growing up, and like, we have Hamburger Helper. I loved Hamburger Helper. Tuna Helper, Hamburger Helper, all the helpers. I'm a fan of their whole catalog.
Honestly, I feel that they would make a killing if they would just sell nacho cheese and chips, and then you add in your hamburger.
Yeah.
Or nacho cheese and fries, and you add in your hamburger. Basically, I really like nacho cheese on top of things, and hamburger goes good with it.
Refined palates. Cody, when you hear that 50% of beef in this country is eaten by, what was the percentage? 18, 12%?
12%.
12% of the U.S. population. Half the beef in this country is eaten by 12% of the population.
By an eighth of the population.
Mostly male. Two-part question. What does it make you think about our overall health? Does it make you think? And what about the environment?
I also kind of question if those numbers might be inflated just because you buy a lot of meat and you cook a lot of meat doesn't mean you eat all the meat. Some of that might go in the trash. So I feel like a chunk of this meat's just being wasted.
And I don't want to think about that. That'll make me more sad.
Yes. Our overall health, well, I imagine the other 7/8 of the population might be like, I'm eating just the right amount of red meat.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm eating the perfect amount.
The 12%, we got to check on their cholesterol.
Okay, so it does make you think of health.
A little bit. And then I also know that they say too many cows are living right now and their methane gas is harming the environment.
Yeah.
And then if you listen to my friend Leo DiCaprio,
oh boy,
he says that because of McDonald's and their Big Macs, the rainforest in the Amazon is just being destroyed.
What does what does beef have to do with the rainforest?
So a lot of the meat that McDonald's uses is from Brazil, but there's only like 6 meat processing plants in Brazil. So they have to march their cattle through the rainforest to the meat processing plants, and they tear up swaths of rainforest to get to the processing plant.
That's wild. What do you do for a living? I'm a cowboy. Oh, really? Wow, that's really interesting and cool. I wasn't aware there were cowboys left anymore in the world. So where do you drive your cattle? Through the Amazon rainforest? I'm sorry, what? Pardon? How crazy is that job?
I would be worried about leopards, jaguars,
anacondas,
20-foot anacondas.
Yeah, Ice Cube, probably hanging out around there with J-Lo, looking for the creepy John Voight.
Yep.
I just assume everything in that movie is real.
realistic enough. But yeah, so there is definitely climate impact, but then there's also a livelihood impact. We directly know quite a few people that their livelihoods depend on the price of cattle.
Yeah.
And
well, the environmental thing's interesting because we live in a rural area. There are places around here to get beef from like actual real farmers.
yep.
And that's where my family gets a lot of our beef, from real farmers. We buy a third of beef, or a third of a cow basically at a time, and we just have our beef for like the rest of the year. But I think what we're reading about here and where this article is going to go, they're talking about the mass industry, So like the stuff that gets shipped out to the metropolitan areas of our country, where does it come from? That goes into the methane and all that. And just like, if you drive by these cattle processing places in like the western part of our state, specifically around Dodge City, oh boy, the conditions don't look awesome.
PETA and Greta both would have beef.
Yeah, but not literally.
Yes.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about here is the health part of this. So the study says that 50% of the beef consumed in any given day in America goes to just 12% of the U.S. population, mostly men. And this article that I'm reading out of the New York Post,
Bastion of journalism.
yes, absolutely. They're going to go in a specific direction here. They say, quote, "And this heavy consumption of beef has significant health impacts on those Americans who are eating half our steaks, meatballs, wieners, and hamburgers."
Yes, because some dogs are all beef.
Current U.S. Department of Agriculture guidelines suggest eating 4 ounces per day of meat, poultry, and eggs for those consuming 2,200 calories per day. But the study reveals some Americans are far exceeding that amount. USDA reports Americans overall consumed a whopping 30 billion pounds of beef in 2021, which equals almost 60 pounds per person per year. Do you think you're eating 60 pounds of beef each year?
I probably am close.
Yeah, I probably am close too. I got to add up all those quarter-pound burgers.
I will say I'm not the issue when it comes to a lot of fast food places, because I tend to actually go chicken unless they are quality fast food burger joints, and then you get my money for the burgers.
So there's a part of me that's suspicious, though, because I'm like, this sounds like this study may have been paid for by Impossible Foods.
Or Big Chicken.
And Big Chicken. Chick-fil-A? Are they behind this?
I hope not.
It says the story says the researchers were surprised such a small percentage of people consume such an outsized proportion of beef. Were they? Seems like that's what they set out to study. Study author Dr. Diego Rose, the nutrition program director at Tulane University School of Public Health and Tropical Medicine.
That seems like an odd combination.
He said this, quote, "We focused on beef because of its impact on the environment and because it's high in saturated fat, which is not good for your health."
I need to see what 4 ounces of meat of ground beef looks like, because this sounds like awful small.
Then it gets real vague. The article just says, "Indeed, an overwhelming number of studies find that consuming red and processed meats." Look, first of all, love how they're combining red meat with processed meats, which then you're including like all those weird, like processed lunch meats and stuff, that kind of stuff.
All the leftover hot dog.
Yeah, hot
bits.
dogs. Consuming that can contribute to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and premature death. Can contribute. Listen, anything you eat can contribute.
Oh, yeah.
What? These media things, these studies, they're so tricksy. They're tricksy, Cody.
I don't like it. I want you to be transparent with your studies.
We've talked about this before. We've messed up food in this country. But then, not only have we messed it up, we have no idea what's up and what's down, what's good and what's bad, because of things like this. Now, red meat in proportions that are good is good for us, correct?
Supposedly.
High in protein, got a lot of good fats in it, milk, eggs, things like that. But if you're consuming too much of it, yes, it can have that, but consuming too much of anything will do that.
There was a study, maybe it was in the Pacific Northwest, that people that were consuming too much fish had started to develop some mercury poisoning issues.
That's even worse.
And so, yes, fish, they tell you it's part of a heart-healthy diet, but in moderation. So
I'd rather have a heart attack. I mean, I'm kidding, but I don't know. This part of our American existence is sort of strange and weird to me. The studies, who it's paid for by, what they wanted to say out of it. None of our studies are just, oh, we just want to see what happens. No, they have something they believe beforehand.
Well, this one told you we studied it just because we know that this is bad for the environment.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
paid for by Greenpeace.
I need you to tell me like what it's actually doing for my physical health. Like you could do a study on why it's bad for the environment, and my friend Leo has already done it.
I've been doing a study on red meat's effect on my hunger for the last 48 years, and I'm telling you, my hunger is satiated by red meat. It's doing its job.
It is.